Hey everybody, this is Father Warner. The readings for the third Sunday in Lent are taken from John chapter 2 verses 13 to 25 and also Exodus. The first reading is Exodus chapter 20, which deals with the Ten Commandments. Now John chapter 2 verse 13 to 25 is the narrative with regard to the cleansing in the temple. And I'm going to focus on John chapter 2, on the cleansing of the temple. I'm going to approach this in a two-pronged way. First, I'm going to deal with this in a theological way, so you understand. It's important for us to understand a bit of theology, but I promise you I'm not going to approach it like as if I was doing a PhD degree or to impress you with my knowledge, of which, as many of you know, I am self-taught. I've not gone to Rome, not studied in a great university, just self-taught. And then I'm going to take on two pastoral approaches, and I hope you listen to this entire video because this will really help you to broaden your perspective and understand faith and religion as we ought to. Now, I said I'll take the cleansing of the temple, which you are familiar with, in a two-pronged approach. First, theological. Now, theologically, you'll find this text, the cleansing of the temple, or this narrative of the cleansing of the temple, in all the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke and John. But when you look at Matthew, Mark and Luke, this narrative appears only towards the end of the ministry of Jesus. In fact, it's the watershed moment, because at this point of time in the life of Jesus, when he enters Jerusalem, he is welcomed into Jerusalem. It is Palm Sunday. He enters and then he cleanses the temple. And I said it's a watershed moment because the Jewish authorities now go after him. This was for them the last, it was literally the straw that broke the camel's back. The nail in the coffin, in fact, it was ended up being the nails in the hands and feet of Jesus. So in Matthew, Mark and Luke, which are called the synoptic gospels, synoptic means to see together. In these three gospels, you will see that this narrative is at the end of the ministry of Jesus, but not in the Gospel of John. In the Gospel of John, the cleansing of the temple happens right in the beginning of the gospel. Look at chapter 2. We are in chapter 2. You'll have the wedding at Cana, and immediately after that, you have Jesus going to the Passover and cleansing the temple. So why does John do this? And we need to understand, and this is key to understanding the mind of John. So for the St. John, he positions this narrative right at the beginning, not to demonstrate the actions of Jesus, because we can get lost with the actions of Jesus. This is one of those few of the four narratives. This is the only narrative that will talk about sheep and oxen and Jesus making a cord, a whip. And you tend to get lost with all these details and you think, oh, these details are important. It's not important. In the Gospel of John, in this narrative, it's not the actions of Jesus, it is his words. And what is it that Jesus says that really should get our attention? He looks to them and he says, you will not make my Father's house into a marketplace. He doesn't say a den of thieves, not in the Gospel of John. He says, you will not make my Father's house into a marketplace. Now, the key words are my Father's house, because in saying this, he clearly positions himself right at the start of the Gospel of John as the Son of Man. This is his Father's house. He is now speaking with authority. And if you read that Gospel really carefully, it begins by telling you that he went to Jerusalem for the Passover. What's happening? This was the biggest feast for the Jews. Every Jew worth his salt was present. Every Jew from the diaspora, from other countries, would travel. And the temple would be flocked. This was their Christmas celebration, if you like it. And it is in the presence of everyone that he asserts his authority. And that is why we have the cleansing of the temple right in the beginning in the Gospel of John. Now, I said I'll approach this theologically, I'll approach this pastorally. And I want to now approach this pastorally because when you look at it, you first see Jesus getting angry. And I'm not going to talk about it because many of us have romanticized the sweetheart of Jesus image. For one, we need to understand Jesus also got angry, okay? He didn't cling on to anger, but yes, he was fully human, fully divine, and in his humanity, he also experienced sadness, as we know, at the death of Lazarus, and also anger, as in the case of the cleansing in the temple. But what I want to do is not focus on Jesus' anger issues or your and mine, but to focus rather on how Jesus came to set a perspective right. Yeah, you heard me right. How he sets a perspective right. Now, you go to any church. I used to see this in Mahim, Mount Mary's. You come here in Goa, Bon Jesus. The minute you have a religious ceremony, a religious activity, you also have commerce that goes hand in hand. So you can't separate the two. I mean, I don't want to link to the words of "you have made my Father's house into a marketplace" to this teaching, because really this is part of human life. Okay, people are going to make money, but, and this is the point I want to make, but when activity overcomes faith, and when activity is all that matters and not faith, then we have a problem. And perhaps that is what Jesus saw. That's the perspective he came to set right. Because very often our activity surrounding sacraments, surrounding faith, become far more important than the celebration of our faith itself. In fact, faith is overshadowed completely. So I'm not against customs and traditions, even though I've spoken against this. Customs are good, traditions are good. But when traditions overtake sacramental life, just to give you an example, who said a bride has to wear white, or a girl for first communion has to wear white? You don't have to, but white is a sign of purity, and we choose that color. It's a traditional color. You can come dressed in red, pink, blue. I mean, think about it. All our grooms come dressed in black. Yeah, white is a sign of purity. I wonder what black stands for. But when all these customs, before the wedding, after the wedding, who got this sari, who was given that thing, when that becomes far more important than the sacrament itself, then we lose perspective. And Jesus is very clear. The activity in the temple took away from what was important, the celebration of the Passover. They had made his Father's house into a marketplace. And the second pastoral teaching I want to just briefly spend time on was when the disciples see how Jesus reacts. They quote the Psalms, the zeal for my Father's house. Those words, zeal for the Father's house, was seen in Jesus. And here's the question we need to ask ourselves. Where is our zeal? Because really, the church, to my humble opinion, the church universal, the church in India is tepid. We are indifferent very often to church activity, to church happenings, to even though we're not supposed to speak about the political influence on the Catholic Church, we tend to shy away from all of this. There is no zeal. And Jesus had no problem cleansing the temple. None at all. He cleansed it of the rubbish. And sometimes we need to do the same. We need to identify those things within the church that take away from the faith. And before you start saying, "Oh Father, we should not speak against a priest or against a bishop," no one's asking you to be rude, unkind. But when something is wrong and you continue to remain silent, then you allow God's house to be polluted. And so we need to speak the truth, but speak it with love. Let me get this right, because Father Alex Rebello used to said this to me many, many years ago, and I think I still remember it. He said, when you speak the truth without love, it is cruel. And when you speak love without truth, it is sentimental. I hope this teaching on the cleansing of the temple, taken from John chapter 2, has helped you deepen your faith. If you like these teachings, do subscribe to this channel. If you haven't done so, please like this teaching and leave a comment. By the way, I've read practically all the comments that you have been sending me, so do leave a comment. I also have a text version of my teaching. You'll go to my blog site. It's called pottypadre.com. Don't worry, the potty is not what you're thinking. Yeah, it's all about the pots and pans, a culture from where I came from. And of course, the word potty also means a little off your head, okay? But pottypadre.com, go to it every day and you'll find the daily teaching uploaded. That's the text version. To all of you who continue to fund this channel, this ministry, thank you. Bye for now.